Hello everyone, my name is Yuko Asano and I am a member of a regulatory expert team here at ChemADVISOR. Today, I would like to introduce our consulting service that will support the compliance needs of your chemicals or products sold in Japan. ChemADVISOR is an expert in helping businesses to comply with complex and ever-changing chemical regulations around the world. We've worked with companies in various sizes and industries over 25 years, providing most current and accurate information related to chemicals and chemical regulations. We are committed to be a reliable and indispensable source of the environmental, health, and transportation information to our customers and business partners. We offer services and products that are based on our knowledge and experiences dealing with many different aspects of chemistry and related laws and regulations. First and foremost, our role in the industry is to collect information on chemicals and regulations from various information sources and various countries, and we provide it in a way that users can easily utilize in their organization. Not only we compile such information, but we also do analyze it and apply it to specific needs of our clients. Using this knowledge, we offer advice to our clients on the best approach to managing compliance requirements. We also maintain the information in our database and develop software tools for our customers to perform analysis on their own. ChemADVISOR also has a team of experts in hazard communication who are dedicated to conducting hazard evaluation of chemicals and prepare hazard communication documents such as safety data sheets. In addition, we also offer support to our clients on their country-specific compliance needs, which can include product registration in countries in Europe, Asia, United States, and so on. As you can tell by the emphasis on this item in red in this slide, this is the main topic of today's presentation, and I would like to talk about how our service can help you by illustrating our approach to compliance in Japan. The Japanese chemical control regulation I would like to discuss today is called the Act on the Evaluation of Chemical Substances and Regulation of their Manufacture, etc. Ever since the European Union enacted its comprehensive chemical control regulation, REACH, which stands for Regulation, Evaluation, and Authorization of Chemicals, it's becoming common to refer to other chemical laws in other countries as their REACH regulations, if they are somehow similar to the EU regulation. It's no exception in Japan, and the country does have its own REACH-like regulation. The law, also known as Japan's Chemical Substance Control Law, and it is often referred to as Japan's REACH regulation. The main reason for this is that in 2009, an amendment to the law was issued, and it implemented a REACH-like framework where proving safety of chemicals has become responsibility of manufacturers and importers in Japan, as seen in the EU REACH regulation. The Chemical Substances Control Law was enacted to protect the environment from the pollution caused by hazardous chemicals. And in this way, it ensures that the health of humans and animals in the living environment are protected. The law provides two mechanisms to accomplish this purpose. The first measure addresses the evaluation of new chemical substances. Chemical substances that have not introduced into the Japanese market must be evaluated for its safety before it can be sold in Japan. In other words, the law only allows the safe chemicals to enter the market. The other feature of the law addresses the control of existing chemical substances that have been found to be hazardous to the environment and human health. The law evaluates the risk of those existing chemical substances, and those with higher risk are prohibited or become subject to restriction under the law. If you are considering exporting your chemical to Japan, you must identify what requirements under the law may apply to you. As I mentioned in the previous slide, any chemical substance that is new to the Japanese market must be notified to the Japanese authorities. The law requires that a manufacturer or importer of a new chemical must submit new chemical notification to the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, as well as the Ministry of Environment. In order to determine whether or not a chemical substance is considered a new chemical substance under the Japanese Chemical Substance Control Law, we first need to find out if the chemical is listed in the chemical inventory that is provided by the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. Chemical substances that are listed in the inventory are considered existing chemical substances under this law, and they can be exported to Japan without any prior notification to the government. If the chemical is not listed, then the substance may be required to be notified to the ministries mentioned earlier, and notification must include chemical testing data that shows the presence or absence of toxicity and ecotoxicity of that new chemical. What you see in this slide might come as a surprise to some of you. Unlike EU REACH or China REACH, Japan REACH allows manufacturers and exports of new chemical substance located outside of Japan to do the new chemical notification on their own. They do not need to have presence in Japan in order to submit a new chemical notification. Needless to say, the same rules and requirements apply to those non-Japanese manufacturers as they apply to Japanese manufacturers and importers. But in this way, non-Japanese manufacturers are able to protect their confidential business information better when they have any trade secret they would rather keep from the customers or importers in Japan. All your chemical substances may be considered existing chemical substances under the law, but it does not necessarily mean that you are free from any other obligation under the Japan's Chemical Substances Control Law. Starting in April 2011, manufacturers and importers of chemicals in Japan are now required to report the use information and tonnage information of each existing chemical they manufactured or imported in the previous year. The purpose of the reporting is for the government to conduct risk evaluation of existing chemical substances based on the idea that even though a chemical substance do not pose any major hazard, it can still pose a threat to human health and environment if they are used in large amounts. What this new requirements means is that manufacturers and importers in Japan must collect information of chemicals from their suppliers, especially if you are suppliers of mixture products. It means that you are required to disclose composition information of your product, whether you like it or not. Although only manufacturers and importers in Japan are responsible for this particular reporting requirements, if they're purchasing their chemicals from manufacturers abroad, those suppliers have obligation to provide information of the chemical they sell to Japan. So far, I described some of the major aspects of the chemical substance control law in Japan and how they may affect manufacturers, importers, and exporters of chemicals in Japan. Now, I would like you to look at your own situation in your organization and ask the following questions. The first question is, do you have a new chemical substance in Japan? As I mentioned earlier, the answer would depend on whether or not you can find your chemical in the inventory provided by the Japanese law. However, it's not always the case for two reasons. The first reason is that because the Japanese inventory is not a CAS or CAS number-based inventory, it is often difficult to find your chemical. For example, when your chemical is a type of polymer or is considered a member of a generic compound listed in the Japanese inventory. In such cases, you have to rely on the chemical names only to determine its inventory status. Secondly, some chemical substance can be considered an existing chemical under this law even though they're not specifically listed. For instance, due to the scope of the law, naturally occurring substance and elements are not listed in the inventory. So you will not find common substances such as water, lead, zinc, and so on in the inventory because they are out of the scope of the law. Also excluded from the inventory are hydrates of existing chemical substances. If finding the inventory status of your chemical is a problem for you, our experts at ChemADVISOR can investigate whether your chemical is considered as an existing substance using our extensive knowledge about the law and chemistry. And if it turns out that you do need to submit a new chemical notification, our Japanese regulatory experts will explain what is required for the submission and work with you to prepare the submission dossier. Or, if needed, we can also put together a dossier for you based on the information provided by you. When you have a new chemical substance, the next question you may want to ask is whether you have the required test information for your chemical. Figuring out what testing is required and having it done can be very complicated and possibly most expensive part of the new chemical notification process. Because the law concerns the effect of the new chemical on the environment as well as on human health, it requires the data on biodegradability, bioaccumulation, toxicity, and ecotoxicity. You should also be aware that the Japanese requirements can be slightly different from those required by other chemical control regulations in different parts of the world. As for testing methods, OECD testing methods are generally accepted. But again, it is important to keep in mind that there might be very specific requirements under this Japanese law. If you are not sure which testing should be conducted for your new chemical, ChemADVISOR experts can suggest appropriate testing for your chemical so that you can avoid unnecessary testing, and as a result, you can also avoid unnecessary costs associated with the testing. We can also review the set of data you already have for your chemical and determine whether that is sufficient for the purpose of new chemical substance notification in Japan. Furthermore, when you do need testing done, we can recommend reliable testing logs that meet the standard specified by the law. The previous two questions only address the problems or issues that manufacturers of new chemical substances may face. But here is the question that virtually every company who is shipping their chemicals to Japan must be asking itself. What is your plan for communicating the chemical and product information to your customers in Japan? Because of the annual reporting requirement, your customer will ask you what chemicals are in your product and what that chemical is specially for. In order for your customer to fulfill their own obligation under the Japanese REACH regulation, you do need to provide information to the customer in Japan. Then the question now becomes, which information? Although I said that all existing chemicals are now subject to the reporting requirements, there are some exemptions you might want to be aware of. For example, there's a tonnage threshold. If you have a chemical that is imported less than 1 ton per year, the chemical will be exempt from the reporting requirements. Similarly, if a product is a mixture and a component contain less than 10% of the mixture may not need to be reported unless it is one of the regulated substances under the law. There are other types of exemptions under the law, and we can certainly advise you as to which of your information must be disclosed to the customers and which you may be able to protect if any exemption can apply to your chemical. We can also suggest ways in which you can work with your customers in the Japanese REACH compliance. For example, with the consent of your customer, you can choose to fulfill the reporting requirements on behalf of your customer by submitting it directly to the Japanese authority itself. Additionally, we can help you with any other issues that may arise in your supply chain. Lastly, you may also take a look at the internal resource you have in your organization. One of the important questions you may want to ask is whether there's anyone who can read, write, and speak Japanese language. As most of you are aware, English is not an official language of Japan, and all the compliance documents must be prepared in Japanese language. If you're only dealing with your customer who can use English to communicate with you, this might not be a critical question. Whereas if you're considering new chemical substance notification or doing a chemical reporting on your own, you do need someone who can at least write and speak in Japanese language because it is very rare that government official in Japan will correspond with you in English. At ChemADVISOR, we have experts who can use both English and Japanese languages. So even if you do not have any staff who can communicate in Japanese in your organization, you do not have to worry about preparing information dossier in Japanese on your own. Our experts can take your information and enter the right information in the right forms required for that new substance notification or reporting requirements under this Japanese law. You can also rely on us facilitating any communication that might take place between you and Japanese authorities. Today's presentation focused on particular requirements typical to the chemical substance control law in Japan and illustrated how ChemADVISOR can help you comply with these requirements. There are, of course, other requirements and different regulations you might need to take into account if you are considering doing business in Japan. For those of you who are interested in more details about the regulation we talked about today, or any other chemical-related laws in Japan, we recommend taking one of our training courses that focuses on Japanese chemical control regulations and hazard communication requirements. We also offer safety data sheet and labeling authoring service that will prepare Japanese compliant documents in Japanese language. There are certainly more ways in which we can help you with your unique and specific compliance needs. So please do get in touch with us if you have any question. We would like to hear from you. Thank you.